Squash, one of the most demanding, skillful, and underrated sports in the world. 20 million players, 185 countries, 50,000 courts worldwide. Forbes ranked it the #1 healthiest sport on the planet. And in 2028, after decades of effort, it finally reaches the Olympics. This is everything you need to know about squash, from basics to mastery. Sit back. This is the complete guide. Let's start at the beginning. What exactly is squash? Squash is a racket sport played by two players inside a four-walled court. Both share the same space, alternating shots off the front wall. The goal is simple. Hit the ball so your opponent can't return it, but execution is anything but simple. The rubber ball can exceed 170 miles per hour. A single match can burn up to 1,000 calories, and the mental chess required to outplay your opponent in a confined space is unmatched. There's no net, no safe side. You share the same space at all times, reading every move, every disguise, every feint. Squash also contributes around €4 billion annually to the global economy. It is played competitively in over 150 nations. Now, where did this remarkable sport come from? The story begins not in a modern facility, but in a London debtor's prison. In the 18th century, prisoners at Fleet and King's Bench prisons hit balls against stone walls using rackets, a rare form of exercise in confinement. The game soon spread outside prison walls, played in narrow alleys behind pubs, wherever space allowed. From there, it entered schools. Around 1830, students at Harrow School, a prestigious boarding school founded in 1572, made a discovery that changed the sport forever. A soft, punctured rubber ball that squashed on impact created a game far more dynamic than the older hardball version. With this ball, players could slow rallies, add deception, and play sharp angles. Harrow's irregular yards, with pipes, buttresses, and tight corners, became the sport's unlikely birthplace. The name squash comes from how the ball flattens against the wall. By 1864, Harrow built the first dedicated squash courts. Graduates carried the game home, building courts in estates, stables, and gardens. It spread across Britain's upper and middle classes, then across the empire, to India, Australia, Canada, Egypt, and beyond. In 1884, the North American court was built at St. Paul's School in New Hampshire. By 1904, Philadelphia formed the world's first national squash association. In 1928, Britain established the Squash Rackets Association, standardizing rules and court design. By 1967, the International Squash Rackets Federation, now the World Squash Federation, took global control. In 1974, Jonah Barrington co-founded the International Squash Players Association, shaping the professional game. 2 years later, in 1976, the first PSA World Championship was held in London. The modern era had arrived. Let's talk about the court where it all happens. A squash court is 9.75 meters long and 6.4 meters wide. The floor has several key markings. The short line runs parallel to the front wall, 5.44 meters from it, dividing the court into front and back halves. Behind it, the half-court line splits the space into two service boxes, left and right. Where these lines meet is the tee, the most important position in squash. Control the tee and you control the rally. From here, you can reach every corner in the fewest steps. On the front wall, 3 horizontal lines define play. At the bottom is the tin, a metal strip. Hit it, and the rally ends instantly, like the net in tennis. It stands 48 centimeters high in recreational play and 43 centimeters in professional matches. Above it is the service line at 1.78 meters. Serves must strike above this. At the top, at 4.57 meters, is the out line. Any shot hitting on or above it is out. The side and back walls also have outlines, sloping downward from front to back. The court itself is typically made of hardwood, usually maple, finished to precise standards. Every player needs the right equipment before stepping on court. The squash racket is a precision instrument, very different from a tennis racket. It weighs just 110 to 145 grams, much lighter. The head is smaller, the shaft longer, and the frame made from carbon fiber, graphite, sometimes Kevlar or titanium. Balance matters.
Head-heavy rackets generate more power, while head-light rackets offer faster swings and better control. Finding the right balance is part of the journey. Proper court shoes are essential. Non-marking soles with strong lateral support for constant side-to-side movement. Running shoes aren't suitable. Tennis shoes are borderline. Squash or volleyball shoes provide the grip and stability needed. Protective eyewear is strongly recommended and mandatory for juniors under 19 in WSF events. In a confined court with rackets swinging and a fast-moving ball, eye injuries are a real risk. Finally, grip. Most players use an overgrip to adjust thickness and feel. A grip that's too thin or slippery becomes a problem once your hands start sweating. And then there's the squash ball, perhaps the most misunderstood piece of equipment in the sport. Squash balls are hollow rubber and come in different speeds marked by colored dots. The blue dot is the fastest, 40% more bounce and 12% larger. It's ideal for beginners who can't yet generate enough pace to warm up slower balls. The red dot has 20% more bounce, suited for improving recreational players. The single yellow dot has 10% more bounce, ideal for intermediate and regular club players. The double yellow dot is the professional standard. It's extremely slow with minimal natural bounce and must be warmed to around 45 degrees Celsius to perform properly. Before matches, players rally for about 5 minutes to heat the ball. A cold double yellow barely bounces, which is why beginners should avoid it. There are also white and green dot balls, used for glass courts and high-altitude conditions. Now, let's understand the rules of play from the ground up. The objective is simple. Hit the ball onto the front wall, above the tin and below the outline, so your opponent cannot return it. At the start of a game, the server stands in either service box, their choice. At least 1 foot must be fully inside the box, not on the line. The serve must hit the front wall above the service line and below the outline. After that, it must land in the opposite back quarter, behind the short line on the other side. Unlike tennis, there is only one serve. Miss it, into the tin, out, or wrong area, and you lose the point. Once the rally begins, players alternate shots. Every return must eventually hit the front wall, but can use the side or back walls along the way. The key rule: the ball cannot bounce before reaching the front wall. If it does, the rally is over. A shot loses the rally if it hits the tin, goes out on any wall, bounces twice before being struck, is hit twice, or is deliberately obstructed. Beyond that, players have freedom, using the back wall, side walls, or any combination as long as the ball reaches the front wall legally. Squash uses the PAR scoring system, point a rally. Every rally produces a point, regardless of who is serving. Win a rally, score a point. You don't need to be the server. Each game is played to 11 points. At 10 all, play continues until one player leads by 2 clear points. Games can stretch to 12-10, 13-11, 14-12, and those moments at 10 all are often the most intense. A match is typically best of 5 games. The first player to win 3 games wins the match. Between games, players get 90 seconds of rest. Before a 5th game, they get a 2-minute break. The older system, hand in, hand out, allowed only the server to score, with games played to 9. It's now largely replaced by PAR, making the game faster, fairer, and more exciting. One of squash's most distinctive and debated rules is interference. Because both players share the same tight court, they constantly cross paths. When interference occurs, play stops and a decision is made. There are 3 possible outcomes. A let means the rally is replayed, with no point scored. This is given when interference occurs, but neither player is clearly at fault. For example, when both converge and one stops to avoid contact. It's also awarded when a player could have made a reasonable return if not obstructed. A stroke awards the point to the player who was interfered with. This happens when the opponent fails to clear properly, blocks a winning shot, or when the ball would have traveled directly to the front wall through the opponent. A no-let means no replay. The rally is effectively lost by the incoming player. This is given when there was minimal effort to play the ball or when the interference had no real impact. After playing a shot, every player has 4 responsibilities: give direct access to the ball, a clear view, enough space for a full swing, and freedom to play to any part of the front wall. Fail to provide these and you risk a stroke. Balancing this while recovering to the tee is one of squash's highest skills, demanding elite spatial awareness.
Controlling the court starts with owning the tee. The tee, where the short line meets the half-court line, is the geometric center of the court. From here, you're equidistant to every corner. After every shot, the goal is to recover to the tee before your opponent strikes. Players who control the tee force opponents to cover maximum distance. Good footwork begins on the balls of your feet. Flat-footed players are always a fraction too slow. The split step is fundamental. As your opponent hits, you make a small jump, landing shoulder-width apart, ready to move in any direction instantly. Movement to the ball uses controlled strides, finishing with a long final step to transfer weight into the shot. Recovery back to the tee is usually sideways or backward. You avoid turning your back on the front wall unless absolutely necessary. Ghosting is the core movement drill in squash. You move around the court without a ball, simulating shots in every corner and returning to the tee. Elite players train with 30-second ghosting intervals, repeated multiple times. It isolates movement, removes distractions, and makes footwork automatic in real matches. Now let's talk about the shots that make squash beautiful. The straight drive, or rail, is the foundation of the game. Played tight along the sidewall, it pushes the ball deep into the back corner, the hardest place to attack from. It moves your opponent away from the tee while you recover to it. Master it, and you build the backbone of your game. The crosscourt drive travels diagonally to the opposite back corner. It forces your opponent across the full width of the court. To be effective, it must be wide enough to avoid being intercepted at the tee. The boast is uniquely squash. It hits the side wall first, then the front wall, sending the ball into the opposite front corner. It drags opponents from the back to the front, disrupting their positioning. Variants include the 2-wall boast, the tighter 3-wall boast, and the defensive skid boast. The drop shot is pure precision. Played softly into the front corner, it should barely rise above the tin and die near the wall. At its best, it hits the nick, the junction of floor and wall, making it unreturnable. A volley drop taken before the bounce is even more lethal, giving the opponent almost no time. The lob is a high, floating shot that lands deep in the back corner. Often underrated, it can completely reset the rally. A well-placed cross-court lob leaves the opponent with almost no attacking angle. And finally, the nick. Not a shot, but the perfect outcome. When the ball hits the exact junction of floor and wall, it rolls flat, impossible to return, and the crowd always erupts. For beginners, a small number of mistakes cause most problems. The biggest is not returning to the tee after every shot. Watching your shot, admiring it, standing still while your opponent plays on. In squash, it's simple. Shoot and move. The second trap is hitting too hard. Squash rewards precision, angles, and awareness. Power without placement is easy to retrieve. A soft, well-placed drop is not. Power is a tool, not a strategy. Struggling with the back wall is another common issue. Beginners often panic when the ball comes off it. Learning to let the ball come away from the wall before striking is essential.
A flat-footed stance kills reaction time. Stay light, stay mobile. Quiet, bouncy feet are fast feet. And finally, underestimating fitness. Squash is one of the most physically demanding racket sports. Build fitness alongside technique. The two are inseparable. In a professional match, everything comes together. Before play begins, both players rally for about 5 minutes to warm the double yellow dot ball to its optimal temperature. A coin toss or racket spin decides the first server. The match is played best of 5 games, using par scoring to 11. At the highest level, rallies follow a clear pattern. Deep drives to the back corners to push the opponent away from the tee. Hold the tee yourself. Wait patiently for a weak return. Then strike with a sudden attack, a drop or volley to end the rally. Deception defines elite squash. Top players prepare every shot the same way, whether it's a powerful drive or a soft drop. The opponent can't read it until the last moment. And that split second of uncertainty is where matches are won and lost. The professional game is governed by the PSA World Tour. Over 1,200 players from more than 60 countries compete in 250-plus tournaments each year. The World Championship is the pinnacle, a 64-player knockout event held annually, crowning the sport's greatest. The British Open, founded in 1929, is the oldest tournament, often called the Wimbledon of squash. In 2017, it became the first major British event to offer equal prize money. The Tournament of Champions in New York is played on a glass court inside Grand Central Terminal, one of the sport's most iconic stages. Egypt dominates modern squash. 6 of the last 7 men's World Championship finals were all Egyptian. Cairo is now the global capital of the sport. The legends of squash are extraordinary. Jahangir Khan of Pakistan is widely considered the greatest ever. Between 1981 and 1986, he won 555 consecutive matches, the longest winning streak in professional sport history. He claimed 6 World Open titles and 10 British Opens, becoming world champion at just 17 and holding world number 1 for 94 months. Jamshir Khan, also from Pakistan, won 8 world championships, the most ever, and held the top ranking for over a decade with 99 PSA titles. Nicole David of Malaysia dominated women's squash like no other. World number 1 for 108 consecutive months, 9 years, she won 8 world titles and 5 British Opens and is widely regarded as the greatest women's player ever. Noor El-Shirbani of Egypt has matched that record with 8 world titles after becoming the youngest ever champion at 19. Ali Farag of Egypt defines the modern era. A 4-time world champion and world number 1 for 6 straight years, as well as a Harvard engineering graduate. Rami Ashour, the artist, was perhaps the most gifted of all, known for his creativity and flair. He won 3 world titles before injuries cut his career short at 31. And now, the biggest story in squash today. For decades, squash fought one of the longest, most heartbreaking battles for Olympic inclusion. Rejected for Rio 2016, rejected for Tokyo 2020, rejected for Paris 2024. With every setback, the sport evolved. Glass-back courts improved viewing, broadcasts became sharper, match formats grew faster and more dynamic. Then, on October 16, 2023, at the 141st IOC session in Mumbai, squash was finally approved for the 2028 Los Angeles Olympics. Alongside cricket, flag football, lacrosse, and baseball, squash will make its Olympic debut. Competition will run from July 15th to 24th, 2028 at the Comcast Squash Center in Universal Studios Hollywood. Men's and women's singles, each 16 players, will compete for the first Olympic gold medals in squash. After nearly 30 years of effort, squash will finally take its place on the biggest stage in sport. Whether you're picking up a racket for the first time or have been playing for years, squash rewards every minute you invest in it. You now know it all: the history, the court, the equipment, the rules, the shots, the tactics, the professionals, and the Olympic dream finally realized. Now it's your turn. Step onto the court, warm up the ball, and play. Subscribe to Stick Genius for more interesting videos.